We're awaiting a federal appeals court decision on President Trump's temporary refugee pause. The travel order announced earlier, it was announced earlier in the year. It was supposed to take effect tomorrow, so we're going to bring you that news when it comes in. Now, this order would block U.S. entry from people in terror hotspots like Iran, Syria, Sudan, Libya, Somalia, and Yemen for 90 days. Remember, President Obama wanted this. Chuck Schumer was for it, too, in 2015 after the Paris attacks. And basically, on Monday, a three-judge panel heard arguments. Let's listen.
No one has ever attempted to set aside a law that is neutral on its face and neutral in operation on the basis of largely campaign trail comments made by a private citizen running for office.
What would an objective observer view these statements as? And as the district court found, it would view them as an establishment of a disfavored religion of Islam. We're not saying that we're not in favor of psychoanalysis or trying to get into the president's head. You don't, Your Honor, need to be Sigmund Freud in order to affirm the district court. You just simply must ask, as the Supreme Court has told you, what would an objective observer think with these sorts of statements?
Okay, so let's take a quick look at some defense stocks. We have Lockheed Martin, General Dynamics, again, all closing down in the red today in sympathy with the drop, 372 points to the downside in the Dow. Let's bring in Dr. Zuhdi Jasser. He is the president of the American Islamic Forum for Democracy. Good to see you, Doctor.
Thank you. It's good to be with you, Liz.
The president revised the original order, took a lot of wording out. This is still going on in the courts. What are your thoughts here?
Well, I have to say, you know, it's amazing that the court system, I mean, listen, I was critical of the president's verbiage during the campaign when he was overgeneralizing, but now we have to hold him accountable to his policies and what's happening on the front lines. Their delay has become sort of this thought crime of trying to hold him accountable for what was said. The words Muslim and ban are not in the executive order. The delay into the appellate courts and on is actually, if you look, the reduction in refugees has already begun. So if we want to begin the process of holding that period accountable, where we pause and we take those 7 nations where they're not allies, they are almost chaotic countries in which we need to begin vetting against the ideology of Islamism, let the clock start, for crying out loud, so we can start this 90 to 120-day process and then hold the president accountable to what happens after that. But to hold it before is just absurd and really politics, not law. All
right, there's, of course, been a stall in implementing the order. I mean, is there any silver lining here in this whole fight? What do you see? Well, I think the silver lining is going to be that eventually they're going to have to make a decision. And if they make a decision that I think brings this issue to the forefront, which is America will begin to have a conversation once they pass this law, whatever it is, and they allow the executive order to come out, it will begin to have a conversation. Will the president convene a commission on radical Islam? What will we do beyond the 7 nations? I mean, he's going to Saudi Arabia this week. I think that country should have been on the list, but it's an ally. We vet refugees and others very well with that country, but yet they are one of the primary cancers of radicalization on the planet, which are the Saudis. So we need to begin this process, and it's been held up at the gates, let alone around the track that we need to begin to engage in. And to your point, President Trump is preparing for his first foreign trip as commander-in-chief. It's a major trip. He will make a stop in Saudi Arabia and reportedly will unveil plans for an Arab NATO. Here's National Security Advisor General H.R. McMaster on that.
The president will then participate in the inauguration of a new center intended to fight radicalism and promote moderation. By establishing and operating this center, our Muslim friends, including Saudi Arabia, are taking a firm stand against extremism and those who use a perverted interpretation of religion to advance their criminal and political agendas.
Is this overly optimistic? Can an Arab NATO fight radicalism?
Well, you know, listen, the president's been getting criticized for going to Saudi Arabia, not to one of our allies first. I would say, listen, he campaigned on national security. He's going to the belly of the beast. Now, General McMaster has even announced that they're going to have a Twitter forum because the president has been so successfully engaged in Twitter. I hope he does that forum in the prisons of Saudi Arabia. To use the branding of NATO is a bit absurd to me. The Arab League has existed for some time. it's wonderful to see the Iranophilia, the Khomeini-philia of the Obama administration fall away to more balanced support of the Arab regimes, if you will, against the threats of Hezbollah, Assad, and Iran and Russia, if you will. But to call them NATO, NATO's democratic alliances against autocracies and dictatorships that are evil. Saudi Arabia is not branded as a NATO, but really has a short-term ally against the enemy of ISIS. But long-term, it is not an ally. Our allies are the people inside Saudi Arabia, the citizens that the Saudi government are putting in jail, and I hope the president articulates that. Yeah, the civil rights are horrendous, and the way they treat women and abuse women, they're just horrific. Dr. Jasser, thank you so much. Cisco